You see the first aphid on your pepper plant, and you know exactly what is coming. Within a week, they are everywhere. Then the beetles show up, then something starts chewing holes in your bean leaves. So you do what we all do. You grab the spray. Maybe it is something organic. Maybe it is something stronger. You hit the garden. The pests disappear for a few days and then they come right back. Sometimes they are worse than before, and the cycle starts over. Now I want to tell you about a moment that completely changed how I think about pest control. About 10 years ago, I stepped into my Amish neighbor Daniel's garden for the first time in midsummer. And before I even looked at the plants, I smelled the garden. It hit me like a wall. Basil, rosemary, sage, marigold, dill, lavender, all mixed together with the green scent of tomato vines and warm soil. I could not separate one smell from another. It was everything all at once. And then I looked around and realized something that stopped me cold. There was almost no pest damage, no chewed leaves, no aphid clusters, no beetles. The plants were clean, full, and loaded with fruit. I asked Daniel what he was spraying, and he gave me a look like I had asked a silly question. He said his grandmother taught him something when he was a boy. If the bugs cannot find it, they cannot eat it. And then he showed me how his garden was planted, and I understood. Every vegetable had herbs beside it. Flowers were tucked into every gap. Nothing was in neat, single-crop rows. It looked almost wild, but everything was intentional. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how this forgotten Amish planting strategy works, why modern insect science confirms it, and how to set it up in your own garden. This season, we are going to walk through 5 layers of natural defense that make your garden virtually untouchable. And stick around to the end, because I am going to share a specific 4-herb combination the Amish plant along their garden perimeter that creates a scent barrier so strong, even the deer think twice. Before we get into the first step, I want to tell you where I was for most of my gardening life. I was a sprayer for close to 20 years. Pest control meant a bottle and a schedule every 2 weeks. Whether I saw pests or not, I would spray the whole garden. Preventive spraying, the extension office called it, and it worked well enough. But I never made the connection that every time I sprayed, I was also killing the ladybugs, the lacewings, the tiny parasitic wasps, all the insects that were actually on my side. I was wiping out my own defense system and then wondering why the pests kept coming back. It was not until I saw Daniel's garden thriving without a single spray application in his lifetime, or his father's lifetime, that I realized there was a completely different way to approach this. Not fighting pests, but confusing them, overwhelming their senses so completely that they cannot find what they came looking for. So, let me show you how that works. Starting with the science behind it, the first step is understanding why scent confusion works. Because once you grasp this, everything else falls into place. Most of the harmful insects in your garden, aphids, whiteflies, cabbage moths, cucumber beetles, tomato hornworms, they find their target plants primarily through smell. Every plant releases volatile organic compounds from its leaves and stems, and each species has a unique chemical signature. When you plant a row of nothing but tomatoes, that row broadcasts a strong, clear tomato signal into the air. It is like a neon sign for every tomato-loving pest within range. There is nothing interfering with that signal, nothing masking it, nothing confusing it. The pest locks on and flies straight in. Now imagine that same tomato plant surrounded by basil, marigold, rosemary, nasturtiums, and dill. Each of those plants is broadcasting its own powerful scent signature into the air. The tomato signal is still there, but it is buried under layers of competing signals that the pest cannot sort through. Research in agricultural entomology calls this olfactory disruption or associational resistance. The pest arrives at the edge of the garden, its antennae pick up a chaotic mix of chemical signals, and it cannot isolate the one it is looking for. Many pests will simply move on to find a cleaner signal, which usually means your neighbor's monoculture garden where nothing is masking the scent. This is not folklore. University studies have documented significant pest reduction in polyculture plantings compared to monoculture plantings, with some studies showing 40 to 60% less pest damage in diversely planted systems. Daniel did not know the science. His grandmother did not know the science, but they observed generation after generation that gardens planted this way had fewer pest problems. They did not need a study to tell them what their eyes could see. And that observation passed down and refined over generations is what modern entomology is now confirming. So let me show you how to build this confusion system layer by layer, starting with the perimeter. The second step is the aromatic herb border. This is your first line of defense, and it is the layer that establishes the dominant scent profile of your garden from the outside in. Around the entire perimeter of your garden beds, plant a continuous band of strongly scented herbs. Basil, rosemary, sage, thyme, oregano, and lavender are the workhorses. These are not decorative. They are functional. Their essential oil concentrations are among the highest of any garden plants, which means they produce intense, persistent scent signatures that saturate the air around your beds. Space the herb plants 8 to 12 inches apart, alternating varieties so that no two of the same herb are side by side. This creates maximum scent diversity in a tight space. So you want a continuous band with no large gaps because gaps are entry points where the vegetable scent can leak through without interference. In zones 3 through 5, focus on cold hardy varieties. Thyme, sage, oregano, and chives are perennial and will survive harsh winters, giving you a permanent border that strengthens every year. Basil is an annual everywhere, so you will replant it each spring, but it is worth the effort because its scent production is among the strongest of any culinary herb. In zones 8 through 10, rosemary and lavender become your anchor plants. They thrive in heat, grow large enough to create a substantial physical barrier, and produce scent year-round. Plant your herb border at the same time you transplant your main vegetable crops. If you want a head start, start basil and other tender herbs indoors 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date, so they are ready to go in the ground with size and scent already established. Daniel's herb border was so dense and fragrant that you could smell it from 20 feet away on a warm afternoon. He told me his grandmother insisted on it. She said the herbs were the fence that kept the bugs out, not a physical fence, a scent fence. And she was right. The third step takes the defense inside the beds themselves. This is where you interplant specific flowers among your vegetables to create a second closer layer of scent confusion and biological defense. Marigolds are the most important flower in the system, not a few scattered here and there, but interplanted heavily every 2 to 3 feet throughout your vegetable beds. French marigolds release a compound called alpha-terthionyl from their roots that suppresses root knot nematodes in the soil, which is especially valuable in zones 7 through 9, where nematode pressure is highest. Above ground, their strong scent repels whiteflies, aphids, and certain beetle species. They are also modestly effective at deterring rabbits, which dislike the smell and taste of marigold foliage. Nasturtiums serve a different purpose. They are trap crops. Aphids are powerfully attracted to nasturtiums, more so than to most vegetable plants. When you position nasturtiums along the edges of your beds every 18 inches or so, aphid populations concentrate on them and leave your vegetables alone. You sacrifice the nasturtiums, but your food crops stay clean. I have seen nasturtium leaves absolutely covered in aphids, while the pepper plants 3 feet away had none. It works remarkably well. Sweet alyssum is the third critical flower, and its role is to attract beneficial predators. Alyssum produces dense clusters of tiny flowers that hoverflies and parasitic wasps love. Hoverfly larvae are voracious aphid predators, and parasitic wasps lay their eggs inside caterpillars like cabbage loopers and hornworms. By planting alyssum every 2 to 3 feet along the front edges of your beds, you are recruiting an army of beneficial insects that actively hunt the pests you do not want. Together, these 3 flowers create a layered defense within the beds. Marigolds repel and suppress. Nasturtiums attract and trap. Alyssum recruits the predators that clean up whatever gets through. It is not random. It is a system. And it is exactly how Daniel's garden was planted, though he just called it planting the way his family always had. Now, what I've shared with you so far is a real piece of the puzzle, but it is still just one piece. If you are tired of fighting the same pest battles every season, if you want a garden that actually defends itself, then I would really encourage you to check out the guide I put together. It is called the 30-Day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Protocol, And it is everything I have learned from my Amish neighbors over the last 3 decades, organized into a simple day-by-day plan you can start this season. It covers the full 5 defense layers to build a garden that defends itself from the soil up. It has got the complete 4-bed crop rotation system that stops disease and pests before they ever get a foothold. And it includes the companion planting field guide so you know exactly what to grow next to what and why. So click the link in the description right below this video. Just scroll down a little and you will see it. Or alternatively, if you are watching on a television or a computer screen, you can take out your phone, open up your camera like you're going to take a picture, and hold it up to the QR code you see on screen right now. A little link will pop up at the top of your phone screen. Just tap that and it will bring you right to the guide. No typing, no searching. Either way works. I think it is the best investment you can make in your garden this year. The 4th step is where the defense system gets precise. This is companion crop triads, specific 3-plant combinations positioned right next to your highest value vegetables to create localized zones of maximum scent confusion. The herb border protects the perimeter. The flowers create a broad defense across the beds, but the triads protect individual crops at close range, right where the pest would need to land. Here are 3 triads I learned from Daniel's garden that I've been using for years with excellent results. The first is basil, tomato, and French marigold. Plant basil 4 to 6 inches from each tomato stem. Plant a marigold within 12 inches on the other side. The basil releases linalool and methylcinnamate, aromatic compounds that confuse and repel aphids, whiteflies, and tomato hornworms. The marigold adds its own scent layer and handles nematode suppression below the soil. Together, those 2 companions surround the tomato with so much competing scent that hornworm moths, which navigate almost entirely by smell, cannot lock onto the tomato signal. I used to pick off a dozen hornworms a week by hand. Since I started planting this triad consistently, I might find 1 or 2 the entire season. The second triad is dill, cucumber, and nasturtiums. Plant dill 12 to 18 inches from your cucumber stems and nasturtiums along the bed edge nearby. Dill attracts beneficial hoverflies and parasitic wasps, while its strong scent masks the cucumber signal from cucumber beetles. The nasturtiums pull aphids away from the cucumbers. One important note about dill and tomatoes, though: keep dill away from your tomato plants. Mature dill can inhibit tomato growth, but paired with cucumbers, squash, and brassicas, it is one of the most valuable companion herbs in the garden. The third triad is sage, brassicas, and sweet alyssum. Cabbage, broccoli, kale, and cauliflower are magnets for cabbage moths and cabbage loopers. Sage produces a strong scent that repels the adult cabbage moth, making it harder for her to find your brassicas to lay eggs. Alyssum planted along the base of the bed recruits parasitic wasps that target the looper caterpillars that do get through. This combination reduced my brassica pest damage by more than half in the first season I tried it. The second season, I was barely seeing any caterpillar damage at all. The key with all of these triads is density and consistency. 1 basil plant next to 1 tomato is a nice thought, but it is not enough scent to disrupt a determined pest. You need the companions at every tomato, every cucumber, every brassica. When every single vegetable plant in your garden has its companion combination in place, the cumulative scent complexity becomes overwhelming. That is a threshold where the system really works. The 5th step is one that most gardeners accidentally prevent, and it is a shame because it is one of the easiest things you can do. Let your herbs flower. Most of us harvest herbs aggressively, cutting them back before they ever have a chance to bloom. And from a culinary standpoint, that makes sense because the flavor is strongest before flowering. But from a pest defense standpoint, you are removing one of the most powerful beneficial insect magnets in your garden. Dill, cilantro, fennel, and parsley all produce small umbrella-shaped flower clusters called umbels. These flowers are specifically shaped and sized for the tiny beneficial insects that do the most pest control work in your garden. Parasitic wasps, hoverflies, and lacewings all feed on the nectar and pollen of these tiny flowers. They need them. Without a food source, these beneficials will not stay in your garden. They will move on to wherever they can find what they need. The solution is simple. For every herb plant you harvest from, let 1 or 2 plants of the same variety go to flower. Dedicate them to the beneficials. Position them near the crops you most want to protect. Let cilantro bolt near your brassicas. Let dill flower near your cucumbers and squash. Let parsley bloom along the bed edges. Within a week or 2 of those flowers opening, you will start seeing tiny wasps and hoverflies visiting them. Within a month, if you look closely at your plants, you will find aphids with tiny parasitic wasp eggs on them. Hoverfly larvae eating aphid colonies and lacewing larvae patrolling your leaves. That is your garden's immune system activating. Daniel let herbs flower throughout his garden. There were always a few cilantro plants gone to seed, a few parsley plants with their tall flower stalks swaying above the beds. It looked a little untidy to my eye at first, but those flowering herbs were the reason his garden was full of the tiny predators that kept the pest populations in check all season long. Now let me share some patterns I have noticed in conventional pest management and how the Amish approach handles things differently. The first pattern is spraying at the first sign of a pest killing everything good and bad. Every broad-spectrum application, even organic ones like neem or pyrethrin, wipes out the beneficial insect populations you need. The Amish never spray, so their beneficial populations build year after year, creating an increasingly effective natural defense force. The second pattern is planting in neat single-crop rows with bare soil between them. A row of nothing but tomatoes is a clear signal to every tomato pest in range. Bare soil between rows offers no habitat for beneficials and no scent interference. The Amish interplant densely, filling every gap with herbs, flowers, or companion crops that create scent complexity and beneficial habitat. The third pattern is token companion planting. 1 marigold at the end of a bed, a single basil plant next to your favorite tomato. It is a gesture, not a system. The Amish plant companions at the density required for the scent confusion to actually work, which means every 2 to 3 feet throughout the entire garden, not just a few plants scattered as an afterthought. The fourth pattern is cutting all herbs before they flower. You are removing the food source that beneficial insects need to survive and reproduce in your garden. Let some herbs flower. It costs you a few plants worth of harvest and gains you an army of pest predators that work for free all season. The fifth pattern is cleaning up the garden too thoroughly, removing every bit of plant debris, every wild edge, every untidy corner. Beneficial ground beetles, spiders, and predatory insects need habitat. A little wildness along the edges of your garden gives them somewhere to live. The Amish leave habitat strips and do not obsess over a perfectly manicured garden because they understand that a little mess is the price of a living ecosystem. None of these conventional habits come from a bad place. They come from what we were taught. But adding the Amish layers of scent confusion, beneficial habitat, and dense diversity to what you already know can transform your pest management from a constant battle into a system that largely runs itself. Now here is the 4-herb perimeter combination I promised you at the beginning. Daniel's grandmother planted this around the outside edge of the entire vegetable garden, and Daniel continued the tradition every year I knew him. The 4 herbs are rosemary, sage, lavender, and lemon balm planted in an alternating pattern 8 to 10 inches apart in a continuous band. Each one produces a different class of aromatic compounds, and together they create a scent wall that is remarkably effective. Rosemary produces camphor and cineole. Sage produces thujon. Lavender produces linalool. Lemon balm produces citronellol, which is the same compound found in citronella. That combination covers a broad spectrum of pest-repelling chemistry in a single border. I have also noticed significantly less deer browsing since I established this perimeter, though I cannot promise that will be everyone's experience. The scent intensity seems to make them hesitate, and in my garden at least, they have moved on to easier targets. Daniel said his grandmother told him the border was the first thing you plant and the last thing you take out. It was the fence you could not see, but the bugs could smell. 10 years later, I can tell you she was right. Now, what I have shared with you today is a real piece of the puzzle, but it is still just one piece. If you want the full companion planting system with every combination mapped out for every common vegetable, I would really encourage you to check out the guide I put together. It is called the 30-day Amish Pest-Proof Garden Protocol, and it is everything I have learned from my Amish neighbors over the last 3 decades. Organized into a simple day-by-day plan, you can start this season. It covers the full 5 defense layers to build a garden that defends itself from the soil up. It has got the complete 4-bed crop rotation system that stops disease and pests before they ever get a foothold. And it includes a companion planting field guide so you know exactly what to grow next to what and why. Now, there are 2 easy ways to grab it. The first way is to click the link in the description right below this video. Just scroll down a little and you will see it. The second way, if you are watching on a television or a computer screen, is to take out your phone, open up your camera like you're going to take a picture, and hold it up to the QR code you see on screen right now. A little link will pop up at the top of your phone screen. Just tap that, and it will bring you right to the guide. No typing, no searching. Either way works. I think it is the best investment you can make in your garden this year. That is what I have learned from my Amish neighbors about making a garden untouchable without a single chemical spray. I still remember the first time I walked into Daniel's garden, and that wall of scent hit me. Herbs and flowers and warm earth all tangled together so tightly. I could not pull one smell from another, and I remember realizing that if I could not sort through those signals, the pests could not either. It was not magic. It was generations of observation turned into a planting system that works with nature instead of against it. If any of this changed how you think about pest control in your garden, I would love to hear about it in the comments. And if you have companion planting combinations that have worked well for you, share them. We all learn from each other. Thanks for spending time with me today. If this story changed the way you look at the balance of nature in your backyard, please subscribe and like the channel. We are uncovering the ancient wisdom and historical secrets that have been nearly forgotten. Let's grow a better future together. The next treasure of knowledge will be revealed very soon.